Hey everybody, Sherry Dutterer here. I am with Jonna Lee. Guess what? We have some exciting stuff coming up for this fall. Jonna Lee, oh my gosh, can you hold your breath with this one?
No, this is 2025 school year is going to be unforgettable. We have so many projects and so many launches. I actually can't wait to get started.
I can't either, but I also am like, oh, I can't wait to tell everybody, but yet I want you to think about what it is that you need for 2024-2025 school year. And one of the things that we have done is we have now a texting service so that we can text you when things are happening. And so, what's one of the things that I want to share with you today is our new texting system. We also have a project that we're working on. Now, let's backtrack back to when was that? January, when we
Yes.
did our first workshop with Tier 1 interventions, and we recorded at that time the pizza problem, I think it was. What I've done with your support, one of the things that we have been working on is this. And let me quick share my screen here. Let me get the right window.
Love it. And I will say, some of you have already seen some of the launches, just like Sherry's talking about last January with the Tier 1 interventions course. And also, I know I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but also the launch of the podcast. So some of you have kind of been on this journey and been on this ride with us. And I mean, there's so much more coming this fall. It's unbelievable.
There is. So what we've done is we've taken what we did in the workshop and we put it into a 2-page checklist for you. And so we have what is the pizza problem? And if you listen to the last podcast episode, you will hear more about the pizza problem and how to interact. And Joy is sharing one person with her students on that episode. So one is simply a pizza company makes square pizzas. Tell me about that. And what you're doing with kids. And it's like, wait a minute, not even teach them anything. So why? Why don't we teach them anything? Did we freeze? Oh
Hey,
no,
I think we did, but we're back.
Oh man, I'm sorry about that.
That's
So a pizza company makes square pizzas. Tell me about. We're not even teaching anything. Tell me, why don't we even teach anything on that first interaction with students?
It's interesting because teaching is this phrase that we throw out. We think teaching is telling. And teaching by telling is the strategy that really negates memory and retention of content. So I always say when we as the teacher say it, kids hear it, but when they say it, they learn it. So this method of teaching is not teacher telling. There's plenty of times that we can tell and we can model and we can have kids mimic. But teaching by telling is really the reverse of what we're trying to do with these interactions. And we are teaching by prompting and by asking so that students tell us. And in the end, what this does is it helps us gain student perspective. And it's the best formative assessment we can do. Formative assessment is an informal assessment to find out what kids know and don't know. And the best way to do it is to ask, tell me about, gain their perspective. And it's in a very low risk situation because tell me about is open ended enough that every student has access to participate.
Fantastic. So to learn more from what Jonna Lee is talking about, if you go to YouTube, go to our channel, Tier 1 Interventions, and you look for this particular thumbnail where Jonna Lee is, and it's all it says is teaching squares. And then we have a 3x3 square on there. And then it's pizza problem math challenge for students. It is a challenge because they have to start thinking with the tell me about method. And isn't that correct, John Marie?
Absolutely. Our goal is for students to think, reason, and sense make. So mathematical minds and making Matheniers and helping students with their anxiety, lowering their anxiety for learning mathematics, getting rid of some of that phobia of mathematics. That's what the Tell Me About method does. It actually reduces all of that anxiety because it puts kids in a situation where they feel comfortable participating, and they feel comfortable participating because the goal and the prompts are prompting them to think, reason, and sense make rather than answer, get, and solve. There's plenty of time for answer getting and solving. We're still doing a lot of answer getting and solving, but in order to create this culture and environment, and in order to create mathematicians and habits of mind and good mathematical processes and practices with kids that involve thinking, reasoning, and sense making, this is the method that will do that.
Fantastic. And when you have talked to me and stuff that we've been working on, I've been doing a lot of creating with some of the stuff that we've been working on together. The pizza problem really, I have to go to this slide, really works on, let me see if I can get them all there. There we go. The pizza problem works on these math standards. So we just said interaction 1, a pizza company makes square pizzas, tell me about. That's all we're saying in that first interaction. And yet you're saying that the pizza problem will help students with counting, squares, array, area, perimeter, square root, exponents, irrational numbers, distance, and formula. You told me that that was supposed to be one line. I have to fix that. But slope, Pythagorean theorem, ratio, and coordinate plane. If we're starting out with a simple comment to the kids and that says, tell me about, and we gain their perspective, how do we end up in the coordinate plane?
Well, this is a really great question, because through the Tell Me About, when kids begin this habit of learning, so if we begin this habit of instructional facilitation, kids will begin this habit of learning, and they will start to dissect the mathematics that they see and notice. So when they're thinking about squares and square pizzas and they see these images where the pizzas have crust and some of the pieces have crust and no crust, what they start to do is they start to dig really deep in analyzing the images and the situations that they're seeing and that they're hearing about. And they start creating math problems and concepts from these situations. For example, if they see the small, medium, and large pizza, that is stage 1, stage 2, stage 3. So automatically kids start thinking, I have a growing pattern. So they're going to start counting the number of pieces of pizza as the pattern grows. So subconsciously and consciously and habitually now, they're going to start doing mathematics without us asking them to do mathematics. And the more often they do some of these similar types of tasks, they're going to advance the thinking, reasoning, and sense making they're doing. For example, if the pattern is increasing, we're exploring functions. We're trying to figure out if the function is increasing at a constant rate or non-constant rate. That's linear and nonlinear. To figure out if a function is linear or nonlinear, oftentimes we will graph the function on a coordinate plane. So as you can see, these math concepts advance and progress very quickly. One of the other interactions that we ask kids to do is we prompt kids, what math questions can you create? By doing that, and older kids are not naturally engaged in creating their own mathematical questions, but school has taught this out of them. Because if you've ever met a 2 or 3-year-old, they're full of questions. It's a natural ability of ours when we're very young to ask questions and come up with very good questions. But then in school, typically, traditionally, in typical school, we are not asking students to come up with the question. We're coming up with all the questions as teachers. And so as the students then start to come up with questions, this becomes very awkward. They're not good at it. But as they get practice, that natural questioning ability starts to come back, just like 2 and 3-year-olds have. And so as that natural questioning ability comes back, kids begin to create really great mathematical questions. And this now brings math class into characteristics like creativity, curiosity, innovativeness, inquiry. And so what we're doing is we are bringing math class into the culture and environment that real mathematicians engage in. So as we ask kids, what math questions can you create? They start to think about the content that they've learned and the content that they are learning and create math questions based on that. And then as the teacher facilitator, we then look at our standards and we create math questions based on our standards that are related to these tasks, such as the pizza problem. So through this process, it's a teaching style that is the opposite of teaching by telling. We are teaching by asking, we're teaching by engaging, we're teaching by facilitating, which engages students in creating their perspective and their own questions. And then as a teacher, I can guide some of those questions into the standards that I have to teach.
Absolutely. So you make my mind go wild every time you start talking. And I always have to go back to, how does this relate to a related service provider? Suppose a speech therapist or an occupational therapist, even a physical therapist. How are we interconnecting what we're doing as practitioners to what you're doing as a teacher? And one of the strategies that we keep coming back to is the visual. Visual perception is that foundation of learning. And so whether you are a occupational therapist, a speech therapist, a physical therapist, a teacher, a special ed teacher, a guidance counselor, an administrator, it doesn't matter how you are contacting and touching children's lives. One of the things that all of us are trying to help kids with their journey is understanding the visuals in front of them. And if they don't understand the visuals in front of them, they're not going to be able to engage in learning. And if they don't engage in learning, they're going to be bored, and who knows what other bad behaviors are going to start to come as a manifestation of that. But don't think that what Jonalee is teaching is only for math teachers. Yes, she is delivering how to progress over the math standards, but in every episode, I'm also there going, wait a minute, this is what's going on visually. Not only are we able then to teach teachers, the teachers are teaching us. So we have this inner collaborative, multidisciplinary, interdisciplinary, whatever the right word is there, connection. And if you're doing your goals correctly as a school-based therapist, your goal should really be underneath the teacher's goal anyway. It shouldn't be a separate goal. And I know I get a lot of people don't understand that what I'm trying to say there, but really the goals of the therapist should not be separated. So if you're really collaborating and coordinating with a math teacher, and they're looking at a concept like the pizza problem, and they're looking at those visuals, your goal should be set up to support that expansion of understanding the visuals that they're seeing in the classroom.
Absolutely. And, I want to kind of like reverse, because when we started our conversation today, we were so excited about all of these new launches that we've done just 5 or 6 months ago, launches that are coming up in the next month or two. Really, if we reverse even more than that, it's like, how did we get to this point? Why do we have these projects together? Why are we launching this? And I think we missed kind of that part of the story. Of course, we've shared that part of the story on other platforms. But the reason we're so excited about some things coming up is because the learning that Sherry and I have done to enhance each other's expertise. So, which is exactly what Sherry's talking about right now. So as a math teacher, I was always using this model of instruction, but it was only perfected to support our students with learning processing issues, visual spatial issues, learning disabilities. It was only enhanced when I learned Sherry's trade secrets as an occupational therapist. So now not only are we teaching more math content in less time, we're allowing more kids access because of the adaptive strategies that we're using that I didn't even talk about with some of these other than the visual piece. So Sherry then adds these adaptive strategies into my classroom settings. Me as the regular classroom teacher, I'm using her expertise to allow more access to my students that have some of these struggles and using these adaptations. And then as Sherry is supporting students and serving students with her expertise, she can use the math content, because the math content isn't just an equation or a graph or something so abstract that the direct service provider doesn't even know how to connect that content to what they're doing. So now Sherry can use a pizza problem, can use blocks and sponges and all of the work that she does to help students in their therapy sessions. She can connect it to the math learning that they're doing in the regular classroom. And that's what these launches are providing to you. And we've got so many cool things coming to you that are adaptive. We have some special gifts this fall. I mean, they're going to be coming at you in your physical mailbox. And
oh, yes.
I'm saying too much. It's going to be exciting.
No, that's okay. That's okay. It's okay. So if you are interested in learning more about what's happening this fall, we have a special number for you. Let me call that up so that you can see it in front of you. So I want you to text "something's happening" to 833-945-4667. That's right. 833-945-4667. And we will connect you with some stuff right now and some stuff in the future, but you will be the first to hear about what's happening next. So without further ado, our recap, John Lee just did it. Something's happening. We got a lot of stuff happening to connect occupational therapists and math teachers here this coming fall. And if you want to be in on the action, go to 833-945-4667. One of these days I will have that number memorized, and type in "something's happening." And just want to give you a disclaimer. We will not be sharing and selling your phone number to anyone else. That is internal use, so that we can connect with you. We can have conversations with you specifically to help you interact and collaborate with each other.